The night it began, rain hammered Rensford like the sky had a grudge. Patrol cars lined Ashland Avenue, blue strobes turning puddles into shards of light. Inside the corner market, the air was cold with the metal smell of blood. A shattered candy display crunched under boots. The clerk, Hannah Lee, 28, lay behind the counter, a hand still reaching for the silent alarm. Detective Cole Mercer wrote with a steady hand. He always did. Star of homicide. Clean suits. Headlines. A clearance rate the brass bragged about at galas. His partner, Detective Maya Okafor, watched him cap the pen and look at her with eyes that said, "We'll wrap this fast." Hannah's parents stood outside the police tape, faces washed gray by the rain. Maya would later say the case was solved in 12 hours. She would also say that's exactly when everything started to go wrong. Rensford is the kind of mid-Atlantic city that still smells like iron when it rains. People know each other by church parking lots and basketball courts. Hannah Lee worked the late shift at Ashland Market while saving for nursing school. She was the person who learned your usual and kept a running tab when your card was short. Cole Mercer was Rensford PD's golden badge. TV interviews, commendations, charity photos with kids in little blue caps. The department needed men like him. The city needed stories like his. Maya, 5 years on the job, sharp eyes, never late, learned quickly that Cole's cases moved like trains on rails. No derailments. No messy paperwork. No loose ends. That's why when an anonymous tip came into the homicide desk 2 hours after Hannah's murder naming a suspect, Andre Miller, 27, line cook, minor priors, Maya felt an unease she couldn't label. It was too quick. Too scripted. According to the first canvas, a man in a dark jacket and a red baseball cap argued with Hannah moments before closing. The store's ancient cameras recorded in jittery gray. A blown fuse had knocked the back 2 offline that week. The surviving front camera caught shapes and moments. A flash of the red brim, a shoulder bump, the register drawer yawning open, Hannah falling out of frame. A single 9mm casing rolled under the gum rack and stopped, like it was listening. No cash counted missing. Cigarettes are still stacked. Hannah's wallet untouched. If this was robbery, it was a strange one. By dawn, the lab gave them the casing. Federal brand, common enough to fill a supermarket aisle. No useful prints on the counter, just a smear too partial to match. The Me confirmed what the scene had already told them. Close range, 1 shot to the chest. Confident. No hesitation. Cole drove the search warrant to the magistrate while Maya prepped the team. The affidavit swore to an anonymous tip corroborated by surveillance imagery and prior contact with the suspect. Maya frowned when she read it. Prior contact? With Andre Miller? She pulled up records. A noise complaint 3 years ago, dismissed. A traffic stop. Nothing connecting him to violent felony or to Ashland Market. Still, the judge signed. They hit Andre's apartment at 11:37 a.m. Clothes on the floor. A sagging couch. A skillet still greasy from breakfast. Under the bedroom closet's lower shelf, a gym bag, $3,800 in bundled cash, the bands stamped with the market's bank. Tucked in the lining, a red baseball cap. Andre's voice shook so hard it stuttered. "That's not mine. I don't own that bag. I swear to God I don't." Cole's face barely moved. "Then you won't mind us taking it." At the station, Andre kept repeating the same sentence like he was drowning and it was the only float. "I didn't do this." He said he was prepping onions on the night shift at Lolo's Diner. The manager, sleep-puffy and apologetic, confirmed he'd clocked in at 9:07 p.m., but admitted Andre left around 10:15 for a smoke, returning just before 11. The murder happened at 10:43. "Plenty of time," Cole said flatly. "Plenty of motive? Jury will fill that part in." Maya watched the footage again. She slowed the frames around the gunshot. There, one flicker of light on the barrel. The shooter's right hand had a distinct tattoo on the index knuckle. A simple black dot. Andre had no tattoos. "Could be a glove," Cole countered. "Could be compression artifact." He said it like a teacher to a student. Then the lab called. A partial fingerprint from the register matched Andre at 14 points. Not perfect, but enough to make a prosecutor smile. Maya's stomach sank. If the print was real, the case was over. The warrant return listed what was taken from Andre's apartment: the gym bag, the cash, the cap, a pair of black sneakers with a worn right heel, and, this is where the list went strange, a receipt from Ashland Market time-stamped 10:29 p.m. Andre stared at it as if it could save him. I was at the market? I told you, I was at work. The receipt was cash only, 2 energy drinks. No camera angle at the counter captured the buyer's face. Lolo's time clock software, a clunky antique, logged entries to the minute but had been under maintenance that week, according to the manager. That meant no second-by-second alibi. Just times rounded to 9:07 in, 10:14 out, 10:58 back. Maya visited the market's bank to confirm the currency straps. The teller remembered ordering extra bands last month with a new watermark. The bundles from Andre's closet? Old watermark. Strange, the teller murmured. We switched suppliers 6 weeks ago. Maya noted it. The cash planted in Andre's closet came wrapped in old bands. If it had been stolen that night, why weren't the bands the new ones? She brought it up to Cole. He shrugged. Maybe the owner had old stock in the safe. Don't hunt zebras when horses do just fine. But later, the store owner swore to Maya the new bands had been in use since the shipment arrived. He even pulled a stack from the safe, new watermark. We tossed the old ones. The fingerprint troubled her. When she looked at the lab photo closely, she noticed a faint, repeating grid behind the ridge pattern. The kind you get when a print is lifted, copied, then reapplied to a surface using a transparency. The tech who'd processed the register, a rookie with nervous hands, insisted he'd done everything by the book. Maya asked to see the original lift card. The envelope was there. The card was not. Probably on its way to the DA, Cole offered. Chain of custody can be messy. Messy was not how Cole liked his chains. That's when the unease turned to suspicion. Rensford's call center records every 911 and tip line voice. For anonymous tips, the audio is scrubbed and transcribed, but the original files live on a server with access logs. Maya knew the tech who babysat that server. They traded coffee favors for exactly this kind of quiet look. The tip naming Andre had the flattened tone of someone speaking through a voice filter app. But it carried a tiny hitch on the word Ashland. Like the speaker knew the street but not the way locals said it. When Maya ran the waveform through a basic analysis, she found something better than a match. She found a rhythm. People have vocal fingerprints, breath lengths, syllable timing, the space their lungs carve between words. She compared it to Cole's media interviews. The habit was subtle, a micropause before saying listen, a clipped T, on, at. The filtered voice had them both. Coincidence, she told herself. And then she turned off the office light and sat there listening to 2 men, one in a crisp suit, one in a flattened disguise, say Ashland in the exact same way. They went back to the scene to map bullet trajectory. The slug had passed through a pack of gum and lodged in the wall's plywood, 2 inches left of the magazine rack. The hole had been filled with spackle when the owner quickly patched for the next day's business. Maya dug around the repair and found, with tweezers and a silent prayer, a deformed slug, the sort of miracle that makes careers. Back at ballistics, the rifling marks marched in clear stripes. 6 right-hand twists. Common. But on the lands, tiny chatter marks, a machining hiccup unique to 1 barrel out of thousands. When the lab compared it to test fires from Andre's legally owned 9mm, no match. Cole barely hid his irritation. So he ditched the murder weapon. Or it never belonged to him. Maya logged the slug, photographed it from every angle, and asked the armory for a quiet favor. Compare the chatter to departmental test files, the library of every gun the city had ever booked, tested, or destroyed. The system flagged a resemblance to a weapon reported lost 2 years ago, an off-duty 9mm, serial numbers filed, then recovered in a gang sweep and destroyed 6 months later. The officer who reported it lost? Cole Mercer. Cole's report at the time read like a shrug. Gun gone. Probably stolen from a gym locker. Maya stared at the date, fingers cold. The loss, Happened the same week Cole's clearance rate took a hit from an unsolved shooting that made the evening news for a month. She confronted him the way a careful partner does, at a crowded diner, during lunch, where voices have to compete with plates and laughter. "Why does your lost 9mm look like our murder weapon, Cole?" His fork stopped midair. He smiled. "That's a big leap, Maya. Bigger than using old bank bands to plant cash? Bigger than lifting a partial print and reapplying it?" I checked the tip audio. He leaned in and lowered his voice until the world went fuzzy around the words. "You know what this city wants? They want closure. They want names. They want people like Hannah to be more than a statistic. I give them that. You framed him." I stopped to panic. I kept Ashland from burning down. He reached for his wallet, placed cash on the table, and stood. "Let the system do what it does." He left before she could say, "What is the system without truth?" Maya moved quietly. She duplicated the server access logs. She copied the audio files. She photographed the ballistics report and placed the slug in an evidence bag inside a locker only she used. Then she called Internal Affairs. The IA Captain Vance scheduled a meeting for 9 a.m. Friday. "Bring everything," he said, voice clipped. By Thursday night, Maya noticed her car was always in a different slice of shadow when she came out of the precinct. Her mailbox lid was always a little more open. The deadbolt turned smoother. Someone had oiled it. At home, she set her phone on the counter, turned on the kettle, and felt the draft before she heard the click. The back door was ajar. On the kitchen table, a single item waited, a red baseball cap. Under it, a Polaroid photo, Andre at the interrogation table, head bowed, hands clasped. On the back, block letters in black marker, "Stop digging." She called 911. Patrol arrived fast. The house had no prints, no scuffs, no signs of forced entry. The responding officer apologized like it was his fault. Reality had slipped the hinges. Maya didn't sleep. At dawn, she took the elevator to the evidence floor to retrieve the slug. Her locker was open. The bag was gone. In its place, a new evidence seal with her own ID number forged in the corner. She went straight to IA. Captain Vance greeted her with 2 cups of coffee and a smile that didn't meet his eyes. He listened to everything, nodded at the right moments, asked for copies. When she handed him the drive with the audio and logs, his fingers tightened, just a little too long, like someone gripping a rail. "We'll take it from here," he said. "You'll keep me looped in?" "Of course." She left the building with that word thrumming in her head. Of course. She'd heard it before, usually in rooms where decisions had already been made. At 6:13 p.m., her phone buzzed. A known number. A text. He knows. They all do. Garage D, level 3. Come alone. She knew better. But if she didn't go, the last clear line to the truth might go dark. Garage D was the oldest in the municipal complex, a relic of concrete and echo. The air tasted like dust and brake pads. She parked under a dead light. Footsteps flitted on the level above, then stilled. Her pulse sounded like a second engine. A figure stepped from behind a pillar, hood up, hands visible. "Detective Okafor?" The voice was soft, careful. "Who are you?" "I work in records," the figure said. "They told me to scrub files. You need to see who approved it." A folder slid across the concrete. Maya bent, flicked it open. Inside, forms stamped and counter-stamped. The destruction order for the recovered 9mm, the sign-off for the lost gun report, the chain of custody correction for the fingerprint lift. Every signature shared the same cosigner. Captain Vance. A car door slammed somewhere behind them, loud enough to swallow breath. Headlights bloomed. Tires squealed against the up-ramp. The figure flinched. "He's here," they whispered. He wasn't supposed. Maya turned, drawing breath to shout, to run, to do something other than stand in the widening glow. The second car crept forward, engine low. The driver's window rolled down. Cole Mercer's face appeared, lit by the dash. Calm, almost tender. "Listen," he said, voice echoing off concrete. "Let's not make this messy." The garage lights went out. Darkness folded over the concrete like a closing book. Detective Maya Okafor could hear her own pulse, sharp and loud, over the stillness. The folder in her hand felt suddenly heavier. Cole Mercer's voice, calm and low, came from somewhere ahead. "Let's not make this messy." The figure from records bolted toward the stairwell. Tires screeched. Cole's car swung forward to block their path. Maya's hand closed around the grip of her service weapon, but she didn't draw. "Not yet." "Cole," she said into the dark, "walk away now. You still can." A soft chuckle. "You think IA's going to back you?" Vance signs their paychecks. "They'll bury your little story before it breathes." Her finger hovered near the trigger guard. "So you're here to what? Threaten me into silence?" "No," Cole said, stepping into the dim halo of her headlights. His white shirt seemed to float in the dark. "I'm here to offer you a choice. The same choice every cop in this building gets, sooner or later. Play along, or play martyr." From the shadows behind him, another engine roared to life. A black SUV without plates surged forward. Its high beams cut across Maya and the record's clerk, blinding them. Doors slammed. 2 men in plain clothes stepped out, moving like they'd rehearsed this 100 times. "Get her phone," one of them barked. Maya shoved the folder into the clerk's hands. "Run," she hissed. She pivoted toward her car, but Cole's voice sliced through the chaos. "Don't bother. We already have what we need from it." The clerk vanished into the stairwell. One plainclothes lunged for her arm. She ducked, swung her elbow into his ribs, and used the moment to dive into her car. The engine roared, tires shrieking as she shot toward the exit ramp. In her rearview, Cole stood perfectly still in the beam of the SUV's lights, watching her go. No chase. Just a smile that promised he knew where she'd land next. The next morning, her badge access failed at the precinct. At the front desk, Officer Diaz looked at her with pity and handed her an envelope. Inside, a suspension notice for procedural misconduct, pending an internal review. Effective immediately, she was barred from all department facilities. No locker access. No evidence room. No official status. And no protection. That's when she realized Vance and Cole weren't just covering up a bad case. They were clearing the board of anyone who might expose it. With no badge, she turned to the only ally she had left, her cousin Tay, an IT freelancer who owed her a favor from an old warrant she'd quashed for him. "Follow the bank bans," she told him. "Old watermark. See who's still ordering them." 2 days later, Tay handed her a USB drive. "You're not gonna like this." The records showed that 6 months earlier, the Rensford Police Benevolent Fund, chaired by Captain Vance, had purchased the last shipment of the old watermark bans from a bank supply vendor. The order was labeled for archival purposes. Maya leaned back in her seat. Archival purposes? Or planting evidence? Before she could dig deeper, Tay called her again. "There's someone asking about you. Says she was in Ashland Market the night Hannah died." Maya's breath caught. That's impossible. The scene log was closed before the shooting. They met in a crowded bus terminal cafe. The woman, jittery and chain-smoking, said she'd been in the store's back aisle when she heard the shot. She peeked around the shelf and saw the shooter's face. No red cap, just a white shirt and a badge clipped to his belt. "You're saying it was a cop?" Maya asked carefully. The woman nodded, eyes darting to the door. "Tall. Light brown hair. Sharp suit." "He saw me, but I ran before he could." A loud bang cut her off. The cafe windows spiderwebbed above their heads. Screams erupted. The woman bolted for the side exit. By the time Maya fought through the crowd, the street outside was empty. That night, Maya found an envelope taped to her apartment door. Inside was a single photo, Hannah Lee's parents at their kitchen table, looking tired and small. On the back, in the same blocky handwriting as before, "Your choices are running out." Maya knew she couldn't keep reacting. She had to flip the game. The next day, she reached out to a retired federal prosecutor she trusted, someone outside the Rensford PD's reach. They agreed to meet at a remote diner 2 towns over, where she'd hand over every shred of evidence she had left. She arrived early, sliding into a booth with a clear view of the parking lot. The folder sat on the table, her fingers drumming against it. At exactly noon, the door chimed. But it wasn't the prosecutor who walked in. It was Captain Vance. He slid into the booth across from her, blocking the aisle. "You've been busy," he said, his smile never touching his eyes. "Cole was right, you're stubborn. That's dangerous." Maya kept her voice level. "You're both going down." Vance leaned forward, voice low. "You think this is about a frame job? You have no idea how deep it goes. You're chasing one thread in a net that covers this whole city." He tapped the folder. "And you just stepped into the center of it." Before she could answer, the sound of sirens swelled outside, 3 black SUVs pulling into the lot, lights flashing but sirens cutting abruptly as they parked. Through the diner's glass, she saw Cole step out of the lead vehicle, flanked by men she didn't recognize. They weren't wearing badges. Vance smiled. "You're coming with us." Maya's phone buzzed in her pocket. She risked a glance at the screen. A text from an unknown number. "If you get in that car, you disappear. Back door." She looked up. Cole was already inside, walking toward her table. The back door was 30 feet away. So was the front, where her car sat idling. She had 3 seconds to choose. Maya's hand hovered over the folder. The back door was 30 feet away. The front door was closer, but Cole stood between her and freedom, his eyes locked on hers like a hunter measuring the gap. 3 seconds. She slid out of the booth, folder under her arm, and moved toward the back. Vance didn't stop her. His smirk said he didn't have to. Cold air hit her face as she pushed through the back door. The alley was narrow, choked with trash bins and the scent of wet cardboard. A black sedan idled at the far end. The driver's window rolled down, revealing the records clerk from the garage. "Get in." She sprinted, but the sound of boots on pavement grew behind her. Cole's voice cut through the air. "Don't make this worse, Maya." She dove into the back seat. The sedan peeled away just as a dark SUV skidded into the alley mouth, blocking their rear view. The clerk drove in silence for 20 minutes, winding through back streets until they reached a boarded-up warehouse on the edge of the river. Inside, dusty light filtered through broken windows. "You need to see this," they said, leading her to a rusted filing cabinet. Inside, stacks of unmarked folders bulged with evidence logs, property sheets, and photos, cases going back 15 years. Every file had one thing in common: evidence tampered, altered, or destroyed. And every approval form bore either Captain Vance's signature or Cole's. "This isn't about one case," the clerk whispered. "It's a machine. They frame, they clear, they control who walks free and who disappears. It's how they own this city." Maya's phone buzzed again. A new message. No number. Just a single attachment. She opened it. The image froze her blood. Hannah Lee, alive, sitting in a dimly lit room with a bruise on her cheek. A timestamp from last night glowed in the corner. The clerk leaned over her shoulder. "If she's alive." "She's the key," Maya finished. Another text followed. "Trade. Her life for your silence." Midnight. Pier 19. "Come alone." Pier 19 was empty except for the groan of the tide and the slow sway of a single fishing boat. Maya stepped onto the deck, folder in hand. Cole emerged from the cabin, his white shirt ghostly in the moonlight. Behind him, Hannah sat bound, her eyes wide but alive. "You don't have to do this," Maya said. "Oh, but I do," Cole replied, stepping closer. "You are a good partner, Maya. But you can't beat the net. It catches everyone eventually." He reached for the folder. Before he could touch it, floodlights blazed from the pier. Shouted commands echoed over the water. Federal agents, weapons drawn. Vance was on his knees beside the agents, hands cuffed. Cole's eyes flickered just for a second. Maya's voice was steady. "You're right. The net catches everyone. Even you." Hannah was rushed into protective custody. The clerk vanished into witness protection. The city woke up to headlines that rattled every precinct desk. Corruption ring in Rensford PD exposed. Cole Mercer and Captain Vance were charged with conspiracy, evidence tampering, and multiple counts of perverting the course of justice. Andre Miller walked free after 147 days in jail for a crime he didn't commit. Maya returned to the force, though she knew trust was a fragile thing now. Some colleagues wouldn't meet her eyes. Others shook her hand quietly, as if passing a secret. A week later, she found a small envelope in her mailbox. No return address. Inside was a single playing card, the Queen of Spades, with the words scrawled in red ink. You cut one thread. The net still stands. Maya looked out at the city skyline. Somewhere out there, more names, more hands, more shadows waited. Her work wasn't over. Not even close. If you want more gripping true crime stories like this, subscribe to Dark Justice Files. Turn on notifications, because the next case may be darker than you think.